I don't think they're going to go for it. I don't see this being a... Oh, hey guys, one second, I'm just on the phone about some new sponsorship. Fingers crossed. It's not a... What do you mean it's a product everyone wants? Alright. Okay, yes, I have the copy. Yeah, alright, fine. Okay, bye. Hey guys, look, I'm not really 100% on this product, but let's just go with it, okay? Let's just see what happens. Alright, here we go. Hey, you know those pens you have? Jesus. Gone are the days of plastic. Now you can get glass pens. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Glass pens. Don't take my word for it. Here's some glistening testimonies. Jesus. Wow. Gone are the days of those plastic pens. Now I can see the ink when it heats up and burns my palm. I'm so happy I have a glass pen. Now when it shatters in my hand, I have to have surgery. Okay, this is... No, we're not sponsoring this. Forget I said anything. Enjoy today's episode. Hello there. Welcome back to Little Man Big Conversations, episode 5. Come in. Stop hanging out by the doorway. You look fab. I love that shirt. It's my favorite one. 5 weeks in a row. It's my fave shirt. Come on in. Have a sit down. It's good to see you again. Welcome back. Wow. I'm just going to say, straight off the bat, episode 5, man, who would have thought? Who would have thought 5 weeks ago when I started this that we'd have the run that we've had so far? I didn't. Honest to God, hand on heart, I had no idea that 5 weeks ago when I started this little project, this creative endeavor, that I would be having such fun, really, and have the ability to chat to the people that I've spoken to thus far. If you're looking for a list of the people that are coming up in this season so far on this podcast, you will find a 2-minute trailer on the LMBC Facebook and the LMBC Twitter. If you're not following those accounts, why? Why do you got to do that? Just follow. Just do it, man. Come on. I'd follow you. Not in public, but I'd follow you. LMBC Podcast on Facebook and LMBC_podcast on Twitter. You'll see the trailer. You'll see some names there. Man, I'm really excited to introduce them all to you, have a conversation with them, and share some stories, share some tales, talk about some adventures, own unique experiences, and maybe, just maybe, you guys will have a little bit of a listen, have a little bit of a learn, and we'll all get something out of it. Because, hey, interviewing these people, I've learned a lot so far about the people that may not be a part of my life and the people that are definitely a part of my life. And, hell, there are things there that I was learning about them that I'm sure as hell you guys are going to find just as interesting as I did. Last week, we had Mr. Villain, a.k.a. Jason, one of my high school friends, who is now the proprietor and CEO and chairman of Villain Liftwear. Man, it's such a trip being to talk to Jason after 15 years of friendship. Man, nuts. Absolutely nuts. But it was a pleasure having him on. You guys seem to enjoy the episode. A lot of people wrote in saying that was really funny. They had a lot of good laughs. And a lot of people from the business world felt like they got something out of that. You guys are all doing creative endeavors right now, just like this podcast, trying to keep the train rolling, trying to keep that energy up, trying to keep that momentum going, trying to keep busy in these crazy, crazy times. But you guys are getting a lot out of these episodes. And I really appreciate it because I never would have thought, like I said, doing this 5 weeks ago, that it'd be nothing more than just me chatting to a few people. But to have it resonate with you guys and to have it mean something to you guys just is just wonderful. So we're going to keep that momentum going. We're going to keep that train rolling. And today, I'm going to bring you a very, very special guest. My guest today, this is an absolute privilege and an honor because not only is this girl a suicide girl, she is doing Australia proud. She is well known. If you don't know her, you're definitely about to get to know her. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce my next guest on this podcast, Ava Arachnie. Ava, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. I'm pretty good, thanks. Warm, but good.
Are you doing all right in this current climate? Because hey, the world's
I
a
am.
topsy-turvy place right now.
No, I'm doing all right. Wishing that the air conditioning got to the room that I'm in a bit more, but otherwise pretty good.
Man, I wish air conditioning was provided in every single room of everyone's houses. I think we'd be doing a lot cooler and a lot better.
I agree, definitely. I mean, buying a house in the future, it's I think going to have to be a prerequisite before moving in.
Absolutely. But hey, I gave you a little bit of a rundown beginning of this intro of this episode. So
Yes.
for those of people that don't know, let's run them through real quick what a suicide girl entails, because it's not what the name implies.
No.
It's not a well, my time's up, goodbye. It's
No,
not meant
it's
in a
not.
negative way. Do you want to tell the people real quickly what it is, what Suicide Girls is, and how you became a part of it?
Yeah, so it's like a website, obviously, and it is kind of alternative pinup girls. The idea of it is, like we discussed before, the name came from the idea of like social suicide. So choosing to look a way that makes you stand out and may like ostracize you from people. And then Missy and Sean, the founders of the website, basically wanted to put that out there in a naked version. So they started shooting their friends, people around them, and then slowly recruiting other girls. And it kind of grew into what it is now, which is, as well as having photo sets of beautiful women, it's also a bit of a community. I have met pretty much all of my friends through it, if not all of them, through it in some way, shape, or form. There are forums where it's like a lot of discussion of a lot of pop culture things, a lot of nerdy things that are a bit out of the ordinary. And yeah, but I guess the thing it's about mostly is just like hot naked women who look a bit out of the ordinary. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
Absolutely.
I was saying just before we hit the record button that I didn't know that it was derived from a social perspective. I was told, growing up, that it was a completely different forum. So, to give the correct answer, what was the correct answer on how the Suicide Girls name came about? It came from a book, yeah.
Yes, I'm not 100% sure which book. I do think it was a Chuck Palahniuk novel, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing Palahniuk right. But okay. hopefully people know what I'm saying. But I believe, it was a book that Missy, who is one of the founders, read. And there was a line regarding these suicide girls, referring to girls who choose to commit social suicide by being tattooed, being pierced, having colored hair, just standing out. It was kind of the term that was used in the book for alternative girls. That's kind of the impression that I got from how Missy has spoken about it anyway. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's a much more kind approach to the Suicide Girl name, because I got exposed to the Suicide Girls name and the label many years ago, back when Tom from MySpace was in my top 8, and that dude with like he's looking over his shoulder, giving me that creepy smile. Back when that was a thing, I remember being told like all about the scene phase and like the scene trains and things like that. And a lot of pictures back then had an SG in the corner or somewhere embedded on clothing or something like that. I never knew what it was. Like,
I remember seeing that long before I joined the site.
Yeah. So it was definitely out there. And I kind of pondered, and I don't know whether I was told or where I read it somewhere, but I was told that it didn't come from no book. I was told it was a term of phrase of, these are the girls that answer the question, man, I would kill myself, or I'd kill someone to be with a girl like that. But hey, it comes from a book. That's much more easy to digest. Different.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if someone came up with that and perpetuated it, and just like it got sort of rumored through, especially with SG. It was such a big thing. Like you said, there were logos on every second photo you saw back then. Yeah. So, and there wasn't really a way to distinguish rumors as easily then. We didn't have 5 different types of social media to jump on and be like, actually, no, this is this. So
yeah, no, it was MySpace back then, and I think I think that was basically about it. There was like AOL Messenger.
There wasn't much.
MSN Messenger.
I was just on forums back then. Like, I didn't have any social media. I was on like video game forums and things and like chat rooms. Like, I didn't. That was it for me.
Yeah, I think game cheat websites and MySpace.
There was MSN. That was a
was
a thing. Not exactly a social media, but I would say it was like the way we use social media now, I guess, is kind of how we used MSN then.
Did you have one of those really strange MSN style addresses back then where it was something like to do with surfing or like Roxy Girl or Kitty
it was
Girl,
always
like
song
that?
lyrics. It was always song lyrics.
Really? As your email address? Back in the day?
As my email address. I used to, and I still do it when I have to create like an email address for like a Netflix account or something random.
Right.
It's whatever song is stuck in my head. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it might actually be the username for this account. Colliding with Forever is an email address I still have that I had back then. And it was, just from a song that I listened to that always used to get stuck in my head.
So that's a song. I thought that was like a poem or some sort of limerick.
The band is like Thou Shalt Not, which is like it's a very, very small band. I came across them completely by chance when I was probably like 12 or 13 and just starting to get into like really gothy music and stuff that was like a little bit different and search out for more stuff instead of just like going to Kmart and searching through the CD bin. And
Guilty.
Yeah, and these guys just kind of like stuck with me, and his lyrics very much are like poems. I think the full line is "We'll be colliding with forever when you speak," which is just very pretty. But that was my email address then, and it's still one of them. Like, I still have it. Don't use it for much, but it's there.
Okay, so me having tub thumping 44 isn't too bad now.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
totally fine.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day, a lot of people had like something to do with Quicksilver or Roxy or Kitty.
I had a friend. I'm pretty sure I had a friend who was Surfer Dude 69, and he always claimed that he didn't know that like 69 was like a sexual number. He's like, "Oh yeah, just auto generated." I'm like, "Did it?
Yeah.
Did it really happen that way?"
Yeah, the first 68 were taken. Lucky he came in at lucky 69. Yeah,
obviously. No. Yeah.
No. So that's how the Suicide Girls started. You joined up. Did you join up close to, what was it, the mid 2000s, 2006, 2007?
I had a cheeky membership that I shouldn't have when I was not yet 18. That I didn't, obviously, there were no photos posted on there. I was just looking at other people.
Okay.
But that was probably, I want to say that was probably 2006, 2007. Yeah, that was like my first real exposure to the site. I didn't join as a model until quite a bit later, 2013. I joined as a model.
Right. So there's this random user colliding with Forever, liking all these photos and commenting on everything.
I can't even remember what the username was, but it would be out there. It'd be interesting to try to find it, actually. Yeah.
So you joined up 2013. As of this recording, we're now in 2020. So you've been a member now for 7 years now?
Yeah, as a model or an aspiring model at the beginning. I didn't have a set go up for like a little while after that, but yeah. Wow.
So you've been part of that for 7 years now, and that name that you used on the site, Ava Arachnie, was that your go-to? Was that something that always drummed in the back of your mind, or did you generate that while you had the, I guess, sneaky membership, as you put it? But was there a name generation thing going on that whole time?
It was kind of, Arachnie is from Greek mythology. Super long story, not super interesting unless you're into that kind of stuff. But essentially someone who was a mistress or a goddess, depending on who you listen to, of weaving, who was eventually turned into a spider because someone was jealous of her.
Right.
But I already really loved that particular story. And I went by, previously to that, I went by Ariadne online, more Greek mythology stuff, but Ariadne was taken when I went to type it into the site, and you can't use any name that any member has had. It's not just models. So, and obviously there have been literally hundreds of thousands of members. So it's hard to find a username that hasn't been taken. Ariadne didn't work, and I was like, well, Arachnie sounds kind of similar. Let's try that. And then that didn't take, so I put an I in it, which is why it's Arachnie, CHNIE instead of NE, like it is in Greek. and that was fine, and that was allowed. So I was Arachnie for a really long time, and I wasn't Ava until probably about a year and a half ago.
Oh, really? What brought that on?
Yeah, a couple of things. So I had one of my Instagram accounts was deleted.
Awesome.
And yeah, it happens. And you can't remake it in the same name, so I couldn't use just Arachnie, which is what I had before. And I also was doing some lingerie waitressing and stuff like that. And Arachnie isn't a like sexy roll off the tongue kind of name. So I needed like a hot person name to go with it, instead of just having one name, because I'm not Cher. I'm not Madonna. I don't get one name. So I thought Ava sounded nice with it. And that was literally the entire thought process, that I like alliteration, and Ava Arachnie I thought sounded nice altogether. So that's how Ava came into it.
So Ava was just a name that just came out of thin air? That wasn't derived from anything else? It was just...
Not at all. It was literally like, it's short, it sounds nice. With Arachnie, it's easy for people to say. I kind of regret it now. There are like so many other cooler names that I wish I had gone with, but it's like, it's kind of too late at this point. I'm like, I'm not going to try to change my name now. It's been too long.
If you had the chance though, like if Suicide Girls came to you and said, hey, we're doing a rebrand, and you were able to rebrand your name, what would you choose? Would you still keep Arachnie and change the first name, or?
Yeah, I would definitely still keep Arachnie. I've thought about it a lot, actually, because I think Ava's a very beautiful name, but it doesn't feel like me at all.
Right.
And I always wanted Rio as a name if I was going to, like when I was really young, I always thought that if I was going to be a stripper, or if I was going to work in the sex industry, I wanted Rio as a name, like the Duran Duran song.
Okay.
Which just, is a whole thing. But Rio Arachnie doesn't sound great together. So I don't know about that one. I would probably, if anything, just go back to being Arachnie. And just screw anyone who wants me to have a sexier name. But
okay, so you would do the share thing. You would have one name.
Yeah, I think I'd just go back to it and tell anyone who doesn't like it that they can leave.
Just telling the camera guy, hey, put your camera down, get out.
Just you can go away now. It's fine.
Okay, so you got the name. You're with the company still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
When did the process, because we're talking about current day here, we will go backtrack and go into a bit more detail with how this whole Suicide Girl thing came about, because it wasn't just like you find it in the newspaper, ring up, and hey, you're a part of it now.
Yeah, not quite.
But when did the process for you start saying, okay, I've developed this name now with this group, my photo sets are getting out there, people are starting to catch on, I'm having like a unique sort of, I guess, following to being of someone of Australian, of a Suicide Girl, is sort of like a unique blend in itself at during those stages. You kind of developed a following. When did you start thinking, okay, can I or should I start branching out and try other things? When did that whole process for you start to begin? Was that after a few sets and you thought, hey, I'm going to try doing a different avenue here? Or was it only of recently where you went, I'm going to try some different avenues here and see where this name can take me?
It was a few years, I think. I kind of only, at the beginning, I kind of only ever thought of it as like something cool that I was doing on the side, because Suicide Girls isn't like, it's not, a lot of people seem to think that it's like a paid job where we're like paid constantly to be part of the site, but it's not, like you don't earn an income from Suicide Girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, you don't. It is very much like a hobby. They purchase the sets that they buy. So when you see like a set, they have set of the day to explain. So like every day a new set goes up on the front page.
Yeah.
And then you can click and see a bunch of other sets, but in member review. So when a set does really well in member review, or if they particularly like it for whatever reason, they can choose to purchase it. And that is the point at which a model will get paid.
Right. Okay.
But aside from that, and like people can leave tips on the website. It's not a really heavy tipping website. There's not a big culture around that. And that's a pretty new feature. But yeah, so there's no income generated from that. So I never really thought of it as something that could be part of a job. I'm not a typical model looking human in any way, so while I loved modeling, I never considered any sort of conventional modeling as a way to go. And I kind of, it wasn't until I had developed like you said, just like more of a following on social media, I guess. And I kind of, at the time, Tumblr was really big, and I had quite a big following on Tumblr as well. And I kind of went like, I should be able to monetize this. Like, I should be able to do more.
Yeah.
I'm like, as it is, I'm just kind of uploading photos, and like it's fun, and I get to interact with people, and I love it. But I feel like there's more I can do with it. So yeah, I think like, I mean, I've done a bit of other modeling outside as a result of it, and I've done like a little bit of waitressing, but that's not super tied into it. I started OnlyFans in 2016 now, I think, which has kind of been, has now developed into my main form of income. And that's probably been like, it's been one of the best things I've done with it. Absolutely.
Do you feel like now with the social, or I should say global situation and pandemic, the way that it's been, as someone that's been a member of that site since 2016, as you said, do you feel like now with the social situation that we're currently experiencing, do you feel like that site's kind of exploded more with not only people that subscribe but other users, or has it sort of got the same traffic for someone like yourself that's been on there since 2016?
There's definitely, I'm getting a lot more messages from people asking me how to start their own and not realizing that it's like, it's quite a process, and you can't just make instant money. In terms of like customer flow on the website, it's actually pretty similar. I expected to see a really dramatic difference. It's been kind of what you would expect, I guess, if you thought about it a lot. So I've had probably more subscribers, but less people spending a lot of money, I would say. So less people ordering custom videos and buying a lot of content, but more people just kind of subscribing to like hang out on the site.
Okay.
So, which makes sense given the situation. There are a lot of people with a lot more time at home, and a lot of people, unfortunately, have a lot less money to spend right now. So,
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it is such a weird time for the entire globe. Really, the entire globe.
It is. It really is.
Has hit the pause button. But it doesn't seem like the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't seem too far away. For a while there, it looked like a dark, scary hole, but I'm starting to see some light. It looks like we're going to recharge the batteries real soon, but
fingers crossed, hey.
Oh, man, I really hope so. But it's good to know that people like yourself are still, even though like the way that the world is right now, are still being creative and still putting themselves out there in any which way that they can, and continuing to go, yeah, you know what, the globe's weird right now, but hey, I'm going to knuckle down. I'm going to keep it going and see what happens here. So
I'm very, very grateful to be in an industry where I'm not horribly affected by this. They're obviously, like, I have so many people around me who have been so negatively impacted, and yeah, no, I'm incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful that I'm not in a position where I have a total loss of income or anything like that as a result of this. I'm just stuck inside, which I'm usually inside anyway. So.
Oh, you're a bit of a homebody anyway?
Very, very much so. Yeah, I'm extremely introverted. Which I feel like a lot of people say, and it's like a bit of a cop-out, but I don't think I've met anyone like as introverted as I am in my life. I'm very much a homebody, yeah.
Oh, really? So, yeah, because I agree, there are some people out there, they'll go like, I'm an introvert, and then you're like, you're just lazy.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't want to go out, man.
Yeah.
So, but you've always been that kind of person, just you want to stay at home, do your own thing.
Yeah, I don't even mind going out, but if I go out, it's by myself. Like, I don't go out to socialize. If I leave the house, it's usually to go like wander around. Like I'll take a train into the city and just walk around the city and eat lunch and sit down somewhere and read a book, or like I just really value my time by myself, I guess. So
is that derived from the fact that being in the industry that is a creative outlet whereby you're sort of giving yourself and your time to so many people out there that it's kind of nice to just be introverted in the sense of, hey, I'm going out, I'm just doing me for a while? Is that sort of where it stems from?
I've definitely always been very introverted. I don't think I had a word to put to it when I was younger, but I've always been like, I've never had, I mean, I just didn't have friends at all when I was younger, but I've never had like a big social circle. I've never seen my friends very often, but there's definitely been more of a divide now, obviously, due to my job. Like, it's become a lot more important to have that time alone so I don't just burn out. Like, I have a lot more recognition of the fact that I'm not a person who can just indefinitely socialize and put myself out there and still be okay.
Do you find, like, Do you find yourself burning out a lot more now that like with the whole social situation that the way that it is, or is it sort of on the same level and mindset that you've been at for like the last couple of years?
Um, I would say in the last probably like year, I've managed to get a pretty decent balance and like awareness of when I'm beginning to stretch myself too thin.
Yeah.
Like when I first started doing a lot more, so like when I started working on different websites, when I started doing OnlyFans and ManyVids and like a couple of other clip sites and really filming a lot and putting myself out there, I burnt out very, very quickly and couldn't work for a while because I just hit everything too fast. And I was like, oh, this is great, I'm doing so much. And then you just kind of hit a wall and can't do anything anymore. But it's been long enough that I've kind of learned how to balance everything well enough that I think I've transitioned pretty well into this situation. My partner's working from home.
Right.
And he's definitely having a rougher time with it because he's very extroverted naturally.
Okay.
And I'm kind of like, I'm not used to not having the house to myself because I usually do during the days because he's like works more of a 9 to 5.
Right.
But it's all good pretty much. I spend probably a bit more time in like my filming room than I usually would. But other than that, pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable given like the way that everything is right now. But hey, it sounds like all things considered, you've got a handle on it now. You know when you're about to burn out, but that doesn't stop you now. And you know, hey, I need to go into the city, read a book, do some overtime, then I'll get back to being the persona and being the successful model and creative person that you are.
I'm definitely looking forward to being able to like go into the city and have a wander again. I'm obviously not going anywhere near public transport right now.
No, I don't.
I'm definitely looking forward to being able to do that.
Yeah, no, you definitely want to steer clear of those trains
100%.
and buses right now. But that's where you are right now. Not on a train or a bus, but that's where you are creatively right now. You've developed the brand, you've developed the name, you're in different outlets now, you have a presence on social media. Profiles are not being taken down, which sucks to hear, but you've got a strong social media presence back again.
Yes.
That's where you are now. Yeah, of course. Thankfully now all accounts are secured, everything's going your way. But that's where you are now.
Yes.
Let's rewind the hands of time, because it didn't just sort of come overnight. You weren't sort of in the middle of high school and they're like, hey, join this.
Yeah, definitely not.
take me back to the origins, because were you always involved or interested, I should say, in the modeling thing throughout schooling, or I guess in high school were you more exposed to it, or was that something that came towards the end, if not out of school?
So I think the modeling of it was kind of a part that came with it. A lot of it was more the women on the site, and I guess to some extent the social aspect of it. So I've always been very interested in like body modifications of any sort. I know I don't look very tattooed compared to like most people now, but I've gone pretty slow with them. But when I was, going back to like 2003, 2004, there weren't people who were very heavily tattooed just walking around everywhere.
Right.
But I believe a Ripley's Believe It or Not book when I was like 10, and I saw like the world's most tattooed woman and thought that she was just the most beautiful thing ever.
Right.
So as soon as like we got an internet connection in my parents' house when I was like 10 or 11 or whatever, I was, online, and I was Googling tattoos and piercings and all of these things that I had seen on these like cool different people. And I came across Mod Blog, BME Zine, which is not really as much of a thing anymore, but it's kind of what it sounds like. It was like a body modification website, kind of like a pseudo social media thing. There were different blogs run on it, all of that. And they used to do a section called BME Girls where they would feature girls. And I noticed after a while that a lot of those girls had suicide as their kind of like last name. So like ArachnieSuicide was one of them, who I still remember. But they would post girls and I was like, oh, what's this about? Why do they all have suicide as their last name? And some Googling, and that eventually kind of led me to the site. But I was more drawn in by how they look than anything. Like I just wanted to look like that really badly when I was younger.
Was that tattooed woman, was her name Julia?
I have no idea.
I think it was Julia Ganoose or something. She's like the world's most...
that sounds something's rattling around in my head. That sounds very, very familiar.
Yeah, I don't know how
you're probably right.
I don't know how that name's popped into my head. I remember the last name being Ganoose or something. I think
I think you might be right, because that sounds incredibly familiar to me.
Yeah, because I remember I think they did a show for a while, and then the guy did like it was like a montage of, meet Julia, and then I think she had
Yep.
something like 95% or something of her body tattooed.
Yes. It sounds
Okay,
like the same person. Yep.
right. So you saw that image and you went, okay, I'm gonna do some research here into body modifications, and then everyone's got the suicide handle. Was
Yep.
that so? You were into that? That was sort of like the high school days for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was high school for me.
Right. So now you're coming out of high school now. It's still sort of it's appealing, but you don't know if it's something that you were really wanting to do. Did you want to like coming out of school, did you want to go straight into that, or was there a study process, or what was your mindset
Um,
like coming out of school?
my mindset coming out of school was nothing to do with anything like that. I very much went for what my parents wanted me to do, kind of thing. Like I was not a rebel by any means. I was super not rebellious. I was very
What?
quiet. Yeah, not at all. I mean, I'm still not really. I feel like I look a bit like it, but no, I was very much just wanting to like kind of keep my parents happy. And I did the stupid thing and had an excellent English teacher in high school, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to be an English teacher too. So I went and I did a literature degree straight out of high school, actually.
Oh wow, okay. Was that
Yeah.
influenced by an English teacher? Or was that something that you were passionate about the whole time?
I'm a big reader. I've always loved books. I did
Okay.
really well in English in high school. Just had a real enjoyment of that. So sort of was like, yeah, cool, I'll be an English teacher. I'll do a literature degree and then do a postgrad in education and start that process. I did part of the education thing, absolutely hated it. And there's really nothing you can do with literature as a as a study thing besides teaching, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of went into a string of different jobs after that.
Okay.
Just kind of trying to figure out where I fit.
Yeah. Did you find that during school, speaking of fitting in, did you find like your own clique and your own niche during school? Because I know
Oh,
a
I
lot of
had no
people.
friends, absolutely zero.
Really?
Yeah, it's like zero zilch none. Yeah, I had a really rough high school experience.
I can sort of attest to that because mine was from a different aspect where
Hmm.
as a kid I was diagnosed with cancer and I went through that whole
Yes,
treatment and that
goodness,
that left well hey, I'm here now.
it's a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
you are.
I think. No. And
Are
that
any of us really here?
is this happening now? So that left me on the short end of the spectrum in the sense of I was about 4'9", 4'10" throughout high
Mhm.
school. But everything else was operating as normal. You know, my lungs were fine, my hearts were fine, organs were fine,
Yeah,
everything was fine. It was just that whole side of things being like, oh, he's a short dude. Now, in
yeah.
reality, coming out of high school, that doesn't mean a damn thing. But
No, it doesn't matter
of
at
course,
all.
in high school, everything down to the color of your nails matters.
It
So
really does. Yeah.
that process for a while there for me, especially traveling up, because I originally was from Sydney. I came up to Queensland, went to the high school thing there, hit the reset button. Luckily, being able to talk to people and telling a few jokes earned me a couple of friends, but it
See,
was
you've got
rough.
that. I have no sense of humor, so you went out there.
But hey, but much like discovering the body modifications, getting to seeing girl, it
Yeah,
didn't
of
happen overnight.
course.
It
No,
didn't
not
happen
at
overnight.
all.
It was a
Yeah.
developing trait, but to resonate with you, high school, man, there was some times there where, although I had some people that would giggle and snort whenever I tell a joke, I had as much on the other hand of people going, man, I do not like this guy. So you're saying for me, your
Yeah.
experience was rough.
Yeah, I was just very, very, very heavily bullied. I had some undiagnosed mental health stuff going on that I didn't really know about. My parents, I was the eldest kid, so my parents had no idea what to do with me. And yeah, I was just very, very badly bullied. And because, some of the kids were bullying me, no one else really wanted to come near me because no one wants to associate with the kid that's being bullied and
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of didn't really have friends in high school. I had a couple people who I would sort of sit next to in classes and try really hard to be friends with, and it just kind of never really happened.
Right.
But
Okay.
but that's all right.
So you came out of it, like you came out of the high school thing. You persevered, which is the most important thing, because a lot of people this in
Of
this day and
course.
age, like there is that sort of, I guess, weirdly socially accepted thing of like, oh well, all these great guys dropped out of high school, so it's almost like
Yeah.
it's almost like a cool trend now to go, oh, well, Bill Gates dropped out and Steve Jobs dropped out, so I'll drop out too.
Yeah.
But
no, school is important.
Yeah, so you persevered with the bullying, which I got to commend, because bullying these days leads to some real dark roads for some people. But you went through it, but you came out the other side.
Barely, but I did, yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, you're here now.
Yes, I am.
And so you went through that process, which, yeah, I'm sure at that stage of your life, it was the hardest and worst thing to ever go through at that age.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you came out of high school, you're into literature, you're into English, you went and studied that. What was that process like? Did anything happen during that process that sort of went, okay, I've got to take a break here? Were you enjoying it, or were you just sort of not really getting into it as much as you thought you were?
I loved the classes, but because I didn't really have any experience socializing, basically, because like I said, I didn't have any friends at all in high school. So I kind of took that as an opportunity to like try to be social and try to make friends. And I didn't do well at it. I didn't know how to put myself across. I didn't know how to be a good friend. I didn't know how to communicate properly with people. So that was the whole social side of it was a whole mess of everything. I ended up getting into a pretty horrible relationship. It lasted about a month and I ended up in hospital, which is when I like stopped all of that and kind of like I was also working at McDonald's. I forgot about that.
Oh, right.
Through all of this. Yeah, through high school and uni I was working at McDonald's. But yeah, I kind of had a really rough time with that kind of stuff, and then after that I ended up sort of building back up and tried to find my place a little bit more with everything. But there was not really much going on in my head in terms of like where I would be at this point in time. Like I never thought I'd be modeling. I never thought that I would be like anyone that anyone would care to follow online, certainly.
Right. Because high school and university arguably are two sides of the same coin, where you sort of start discovering who you are as a person. Now that both industries both have what I like to call a safety net, where it's not so much real life in the sense of, hey, once you leave those campuses and once you leave the school grounds, that's when reality hits. So you sort of have this safety net environment to sort of create your own identity. And if there was something in high school you didn't like, or it was some leading down a bad way, you could sort of, I guess, almost start again at university and start shaping.
I tried to do that and I did a bad job.
Oh, really?
So that's, yeah. I just failed at trying to reinvent myself, I guess, in university. I guess I just didn't know who I was very much, so I wasn't sure. I didn't know how to be myself, so I was trying really hard to be what I thought I wanted to be or what I thought people wanted from me.
Right.
But, yeah.
Did you stick it out at university?
No, not well. I have multiple university adventures actually.
Yeah.
So I didn't with that one. So I was there for a little bit over 2 years. Like I did go. I had a short stint in hospital. I did end up going back to university the next year. Okay. I just had not resolved any of the issues that I was dealing with essentially. So I went back as a very quiet, withdrawn, sick human, and did okay with study, but my mental health just wasn't at a point where I could support everything. And I ended up going into, at the end of 2011, I ended up going into a psychiatric ward for a very short period of time. And I completely cut off university then. I was like, cool, I can't make this work. At least not now. Done. Out. Yeah. So, yeah.
The last thing I think, especially in that environment, is being up to date with your lectures and making sure your assignments are on time.
No, it doesn't work that way at all.
So you came out of that bad relationship. Was this a spin-off from that? Did you decide to check yourself in and go, hey, I'm in a bad place here. I need to go get everything looked at and get myself checked out here because I'm not enjoying who I am? Is that where that came from? Was that a decision that you made?
No, it wasn't a decision that I made, actually. I attempted suicide on my university campus, actually, in 2011.
Wow.
And a lecturer, a very, very kind lecturer, who was my theatre lecturer at that point in time, called paramedics and got me sent to hospital and whatever. And once we got there, they were like, we're not letting you go home. We're obviously not letting you go home right now.
Yeah.
Even though I wanted to, I obviously wasn't in the right headspace. I was like, just let me leave. But that's not their job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I was there. And I wasn't there for very long, but it was definitely like a turning point in everything.
Yeah, definitely. So you went through that process. You weren't there for very long. Were you roughly there for maybe like half a year, like a couple of weeks?
like a week, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like it was a very short period of time. I was very desperate to get out of there.
Yeah.
I probably should have been in longer. I was definitely lying to doctors and telling them that I was more okay than I actually was, I think. But they obviously, like, these places need the space for other people as well. They kind of try to get people out as fast as they can, I think.
Okay.
Unless they feel like they are genuinely safer for them to be in there. But
yeah, they'll probably assess and go, okay, this person's making gun motions with their hand. We don't think we should let them out.
Yeah,
like it's
maybe,
kind of like
keep them.
assess and see kind of vibe. Yeah.
But
okay.
yeah, I think like I still live with my parents. I think they kind of saw that my parents genuinely cared about me and were like, okay, you can go with them, keep an eye on her, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
So where are we at now? So we're still in 2011 now, or is this?
That's around the end of 2011.
Right. Okay. Now, is this where your life sort of takes a turn for the good? Because I know that in everyday life, not only you're a model and you're in a relationship, but you're also a mom.
Yes, I am.
Was this the year, or was this come later?
No, it's quite a bit later. So,
I'll edit that out.
Yeah, no, that's fine. 2016 was when I fell pregnant, had a kid. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll bring that up in 2016 then. So
easy.
All right, so you're at 2012 now. You've gone through that extraordinary time to. I guess it was almost. Could you call it almost a sense of not only recovery, but were you coming out of that? Did you sort of go, all right, I know not what I want to do, but I definitely know that the opposite of that is where I want to be in terms of being a person?
Kind of, yeah. I definitely gained an amount of self-awareness from it. It's when I like sort of started seeing mental health professionals and started the process of like, okay, clearly my mental health is something that I can't deal with by myself. It does need more attention than just me. And I still didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was starting to become definitely like more of myself. I kind of dropped any sort of pretense. I definitely dropped any sort of act or person that I was trying to put on and started focusing on kind of developing traits that I wanted to have genuinely as a human instead of trying really hard to like present myself as someone else.
Right. Yeah. So you're starting to go, all right, this is the ticking of the boxes that I kind of want to aspire to be at. And what
pretty much.
And what I've come through, that's not working for me no more.
Yeah, basically.
Right. So in 2012 now, is this where you start looking a bit more, you come back to, always been interested in, but now you start sort of coming back to that idea sort of seeps in of, hey, the suicide girl thing I looked at a couple of years ago, is that still on the radar at this point?
Yeah, a little bit actually. I think because I was like getting a little bit older and I had started becoming a little bit more modified in how I looked. I had a couple of tattoos at this point.
Yeah.
And I actually started hairdressing in 2012. And I started putting a lot more effort into my appearance as a result of that. Previously, I had my own thing going on. I was like very gothy looking. I'm pretty gothy looking now, but I was like the real sort of like 80s goth with like a lot of fishnets and a lot of big hair and that kind of thing. And I never really put much of an emphasis on like beauty or like prettiness in how I looked. It was all very much like Halloween makeup or like no makeup and yeah. Whereas when I started hairdressing, I started in like a really high-end salon, a luxury salon, and they kind of went to me, well, you need to wear makeup, you need to like put some effort into your appearance. And it wasn't something that I'd ever thought about before. I wasn't really aware of like my body shape or my face shape or anything like that. So that kind of awareness of my body and ability to apply makeup and going out and trying on different clothes definitely kind of made me think about it again. I kind of started to think probably around then, like, oh, maybe I could actually do SG. Maybe I kind of am starting to look a bit like one of them. Like maybe that's something that would work. So it was definitely in the back of my head at that point. And I did start modeling in a very small capacity 2012 as well, just like looking. I joined like Model Mayhem, which is it's pretty dead now, but it's kind of like a social media. You can put up your modeling or photography portfolio and find other models or photographers and link up through there. So I started shooting with people just kind of for funsies around then. That's a big leap. That's a big leap from coming out from high school, not knowing who you were, to go through that terrible time, to now go, hey, yeah, let's take some photos. Like, was this all sort of inspired from the fact of, well, the Suicide Girl thing, I'm really liking the look, and you're starting to create your own identity now. And did shaping your own identity in the sense of being inspired maybe to a sense of the body modification sites and the scene girl thing, did you sort of feel like you could find your own niche, or sort of feel like this feels like a safe place, and this kind of vibe here is I'm liking what I see, and maybe I can apply it to my own life? It was generated from something like that? So the thing that it sounds really like, whenever I say it, it feels like so cringy and strange. But the thing that got me to actually sign up as a model for the site was an article in Cosmopolitan, which I don't actually think exists anymore, but it did then.
Yeah, Cosmo.
Yep, Cosmo. And it was an article based on a study that had found that people are most likely to form their lifetime friends between the ages of 22 and 28.
Right.
And prior to reading that, it sounds really dumb that was such a pivotal thing, but I had kind of accepted that I just didn't have friends. I had moved out of home with my partner at that point, and the only people I ever saw socially ever were his friends. Like I didn't have any friends. I didn't socialize with anyone at all. Like there were a couple people that I would chat to online occasionally, but I didn't have any of that. And I kind of had thought, well, like I never made friends in high school, so there's my chance gone. My partner is lucky enough that most of his friends are friends that he met in primary school or high school.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw that as like how things were. And I thought that because I didn't have friends in high school and I didn't make friends properly in uni, that I just couldn't have them. And reading that article was like, oh, science says that I should be able to make friends, which is really, kind of dumb. But I mean, I've always had a lot of faith in science. I'm very much that type of person. But yeah, and that kind of like just made me like something clicked, and I thought, oh wait, I have heard people talking about Suicide Girls as like a really nice community, especially like the Australian part of it. Like I said, I was on Tumblr at that point, and I followed a girl who she's Pixie Lace Rose on Instagram now. She has quite a big following there. She at the time was Vorpal Suicide, and I knew she was a recruiter for the site because we followed each other on Tumblr, and we used to chat all the time on there. And she had spoken about it being a really great community. So I kind of went, okay, maybe this is how I find people who are more like me. And I just messaged her and ended up signing up through her.
Right. Okay. So that whole thing that was rattling around for ages, you're now thinking, yeah, this could maybe feel like a home. Maybe I could sort of
pretty much
not only feel like a safe place, because you've been chatting online to Vorpal, but now it's sort of becoming a reality. And your partner, is it the same partner you have now? Is this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I have been with my current partner officially since 2012, unofficially since like at the beginning of 2011.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2012, hearing it just now from you firsthand, 2012 feels like a big reset button from you. You come out of that bad situation, you kind of find your tribe with Suicide Girls, and going from someone that felt really sort of reserved and introverted in high school, you're now starting a relationship. This is a complete 180, and just
very much so.
Arguably, just a small time frame shift.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So you're starting to get all the green lights for you here. You've developed. You joined up to the brand. You're in the relationship now. Just touching on it real quick, because I didn't get to ask you just before. You talked about getting your tattoos. Was
Mhm.
coming out of that bad time, was that what inspired you to get your first tattoo to sort of signify to yourself, hey, I'm getting this to mark a new beginning? Or was it just something you saw and went, I'm going to get a tattoo?
It was actually an idea that I'd had in my head for a really long time, and it was completely a financial thing. Like, it was a financial thing, and it was a matter of like, I want to be really, really sure, because at the moment, like, now I'm probably slightly more spare at the moment. I don't care as much in terms of like, oh, well, I regret this later. But
Yeah.
back then it was my first tattoo. So I had been thinking about it literally for years about
Right.
what I wanted for my first tattoo. So it was just a matter of saving up those McDonald's paychecks. And I think it was a tax return. Like, I think it was a Macca's tax return. And I was like, cool, I'm going to get tattooed now.
Right.
So totally boring reason. But that
What was
it.
your first tattoo?
So I have on my shoulders 2 purple roses
Okay.
that have like spider webs on them. And one of them has like a spider as well. Those are my
Right.
first ones.
Is that something you derived from just saying like, hey, I just want this? Or was it something you saw, or was just...
Bits and pieces. I still really love the color purple, but back then, like, everything in my life was purple. Like, it was a real thing for me.
Right.
So I loved the color purple, and it made me feel very, like, wearing purple made me feel very, like, comfortable. So I loved the idea of that sense of comfort. I wanted something that worked with my body and felt like an accessory almost as well. So that's kind of why I chose my shoulder caps as like a placement, because it's almost like clothing, almost like something you would put on your body. And then the spider webs, because I really love spiders, obviously, like, it goes with my name a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing super interesting there. They're kind of traditional style purely because it's a style of tattooing that holds up really well over time. And then I knew that it was never going to look dated, I guess, as well, which was kind of important to me.
Now, everyone's got their stories and their reasons behind the tattoos. That does sound like an individual and a very, sporadic reason to get a tattoo. But hey, it works for you. It's part of your identity now.
Absolutely.
It's a lot better reason than when I got my first tattoo.
What was yours?
My first tattoo was across the back of my shoulders, and it was Latin font. You're gonna appreciate this because it's from Marvel. It's from the Punisher movie, the Tom Jane one. And
Sure.
I got the line "Civis pacem parabellum," which means if you want peace, prepare for war.
Prepare for war. Yeah.
And I funny story. I only told the story on the podcast now. For people that are going to listen to this episode, are going to hear this for the first time. I was always a little bit concerned about getting any type of font on as a tattoo, because there's always those horror stories of someone getting font. And there's like a letter missing or something, and there's that famous scene in one of those movies where it says "Ragrets." The guy's got the complete tattoo. I thought, man, it's going to end up like me. I get the tattoo, right? I sit down with it. I get the outline done. And true story, I get the outline done, just the outline of all the font. I stand up and go, wow, that was so quick. That's great. And the guy went, no, I got to color it in now.
We got more. Yeah.
Damn it. So I sit back down. I've never stared so hard at a floor of tiles in my life, because I was like, I'm going to study this grout, because he's really, firsthand.
I certainly, I also have script across that area of my back, so I know very well.
Yeah.
Very well.
There was a comma in between the two sentences there, and that comma was right on my spine, so my whole skeleton was vibrating. I'm thinking, I'm having a great time with this.
Yep.
I get home, I look in the mirror. Yeah, it looks good. Wait a minute. What? Civis, it's meant to say pacem. It says parum.
Oh no!
And I went, I'm tripping out. I must have spelt it wrong. Like, I was totally in denial.
Yeah.
I went down to wrestling training the next day. I didn't train, obviously, because that would be really painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one of my trainers was a big comic book enthusiast, and he'd also studied Latin. I said, I got the tattoo done. And he sort of laughed, and he went, show me a tattoo? Because I put it up on social media. I was bragging about,
of course.
And he looked at it, and he said, he started laughing, and I went, well, what's wrong? And he goes, you wanted Civis pacem parabellum, right? If you want peace, prepare for war. And I said, yeah. And he goes, you've got parum. And I went, oh, don't tell me.
Yeah.
He goes, right now your tattoo says, if you want parent, prepare for war.
Oh no.
I'm like,
oh my goodness.
And I was that fear of being like, no, I'm permanently stuck. But hey, managed to get down the tattoo artist. He was we managed to add a little bit on the R at the end to sort of turn it into a C, so it wasn't too bad.
Most of the time with like script with tattoos, you can kind of like do some things and make it work.
But yeah, for that 48 hour, 72-hour process before getting back in there, I was covering it up bad. I was wearing skivvies. I was wearing turtlenecks. It was the middle of summer. I didn't want anyone to see it. I took the photo down. No way was anyone seeing that.
Yeah, sure.
Fixed up. Hey, that was the reason behind my tattoo. I was coming in a bad place in my life at that point. I thought, hey, this is to do with all my medical battles. This is to make sure that, hey, sometimes we go through some bad stuff, but at the end, we find our peace and we come through it.
It's a good one. I like it. It's a good quote. It's a good spot for it.
Yeah, so that was the origin of your first tattoo. You've gone on Model Mayhem. How long between going on Model Mayhem to then getting the call to Suicide Girl? Because I know you said you had like the sort of sneaky membership and you were browsing the site and finding a niche, but when did you get your first shoot? Did you do some stuff with Model Mayhem for a while there before getting the call?
Bits and pieces. Like I wanted to sort of practice modeling a bit more, and I wanted to be quite confident in it before I went for the site. And I shot my first set with my first set never ended up on the site. So I shot that set with a photographer I had worked with, and it just wasn't an SG set. They were beautiful photos. It wasn't SG. It got rejected. I was minorly discouraged. And then a photographer actually approached me. He unfortunately is now deceased. He's Capture of Cthulhu on social media, and he is a fantastic photographer, but he ended up approaching me saying, hey, it looks like we're both trying to get into Suicide Girls, because I had spoken about it a little bit on my social media. And he was also in the same area as me. And we shot the first set that ended up going on the site, like in my house in front of my bookshelf.
Wow.
Yeah, so super not like a lot of what's on SG, but I was one of the really lucky girls on the site who had a really quick progression to being an official Suicide Girl. So when you join up on the site, you are a hopeful Suicide Girl, which you've probably seen around online a little bit.
Yeah.
That basically just means you haven't had a set bought yet. I think the terminology is a bit weird, because when it comes down to it, we're all just naked women on the internet. There's no real like. It is what it is. But my first set was bought. That set that I shot with Daniel, Capture of Cthulhu, was purchased and went on the front page. So I became an official Suicide Girl. That was in 2015, actually,
right. Okay.
When that went up. Yeah.
So take me back to the differences, if you can remember, because I remember my first match, and it wasn't the best, but hey. Everyone's going to cut their teeth at some point, and you learn and you grow as the more and more you get out there. So for someone like yourself, take me back to the first day that you had like a Model Mayhem shoot and compare that to the first day of, say, a Suicide Girl shoot. Did you find a lot of not only creative differences, but was there a lot of, I wouldn't say invisible pressure between both the sets? Because you were still starting out with the Model Mayhem, but now you're getting the call up to say, hey, we can shoot the set for Suicide Girls. What was that experience like from both the Model Mayhem perspective and then going to the Suicide Girls perspective?
I mean, Model Mayhem it's mostly just people who are, like, there are professionals on there, but it's predominantly people just trying to, like, learn with each other.
Okay.
So everything I had done on there, I felt a bit less in control of what I was doing. And that's not a result of like Model Mayhem. It was just a result of me just kind of wanting to go along and produce whatever the photographer wanted to produce.
Yeah.
Whereas SG Suicide Girls has, obviously, photographers bring their own style and their own vibe, and there are very distinct photographers on there, but it's about the girl. It is centered around the girl. So for my like I said, my first set was shot in front of my bookshelf, so it was really cool being able to do something that was like a little bit more me, and I think I felt a bit more confident in it, both because I'd had a little bit of experience just posing and learning how my body looked, and because it was something that I creatively had more of a part in, I guess.
Yeah. Because the Model Mayhem stuff, was that sort of in the terms of like advertisements, or was that sort of, for lack of a better term, revealing photo shoots as well compared to Suicide Girls?
It was all over the place.
Right.
So I think the first time I was ever in front of a camera was for a TAFE student, someone who was studying photography
in
school, and literally just needed someone to take photos of for their final assessment. And I was in there for that. Like, that was the first thing I did. I did a couple of like nude shoots. I think I did a couple of men's magazine submissions as well as a result of people finding me through the site.
Okay.
So in terms of like the actual content, super all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not a consistent style like SG is.
Yeah. So you just referencing earlier, like the self-confidence thing in high school, like was a real big hit for you. You developed your own identity now at this point. You're getting out there. You've got a successful relationship. You're getting a few tattoos. You tick all the right boxes for yourself, and creatively you're getting out there with Model Mayhem. Was the confidence ever tested when, say, the first, for lack of a better term, again, revealing photo shoot came about? Was that sort of like a man, here we go kind of thing? Or was that just a, man, let's just jump in and see what happens?
It, you know, I can't really remember being nervous about it at all. My confidence issues, I guess, are mostly with my personality and my sense of self. And obviously, like, everyone has things about their body they don't like and whatever. But I guess because I didn't have friends in high school, I never had that experience of comparing my body to other girls. I never thought about my body at all, really, until I, as a result of being quite ill and ending up in hospital, all that kind of stuff, I ended up losing a lot of weight, and I kind of started to think about it more then. But I never really felt self-conscious about my body. I had confidence issues with myself as a human, but anything sexual, anything involving nudity was always totally fine with me. I always felt really comfortable in that area. Because for me, it's kind of, and I still tell the same thing whenever people catch me out, like call me out on a level of insecurity. Like, I'll say I don't like something and they're like, oh, what do you mean? You're beautiful. And it's never been, I guess there's a disconnect between how I feel about my body and what I'm presenting to the world. Like, because I have always known, and I know that if someone sees me naked, they're not looking at all the things that I don't like about myself. They're not nitpicking and going, oh, the skin's rougher there, and this isn't right, and this isn't right. They're just seeing a naked human. So I've always been able to, like, kind of set my own thoughts aside and present myself in that way. It kind of just felt like stepping into not another body, but just putting on a different persona, I guess.
Yeah, and it's almost like the public are reacting to that persona rather than you as a person. They're seeing the name. It's obviously, you know, odds are it ain't a legal birth name.
No.
So they're responding to the character, and they're going, you know, oh, I'll just have really, you know, by default compliments, and oh, what you talking about, blah blah. But they're not really going, hey, this is a actual person. Like, they kind of, I guess, desensitized to a certain extent, because it is online. Like, they're not in the building shooting it with you. They're just sort of seeing what they see, and they're just reacting to, say, a persona rather than a person.
Yeah, at that point it very much was. Like, my work online now is a lot more personal, I think, because I do OnlyFans and I do social media, and I'm a lot happier with myself. So I'm more happy for it to be just genuinely me and less a persona. But back then it was definitely like, okay, I'm going to be naked Arachnie now, and I would kind of definitely put on a persona that kind of allowed me to have that confidence at that point.
Yeah,
it was definitely very separate from me as a human.
Does the persona still feel like a mask to you now at the level that you're at now, 7 years later from your first shoot, or does it still is it more of an extension of who you are as a person now?
It weirdly enough, I think it varies from time to time. I get that. I like, for the most, like, I feel like who I am online, like, if you follow me on Instagram, or like Twitter's mostly just work promo, actually, so it's probably not a great example. But like, I guess like OnlyFans and Instagram, everything on there is very genuinely me. It's coming from me. Like, it's right. Not an idea of branding. It's not an idea of building up a persona. And I would say when I'm like in a good rhythm, when I'm totally on top of the world, there isn't that much of a mask there anymore. I would say the masking happens if I'm not doing too well in my personal life, and I have to keep that up. That's kind of where it becomes an issue. I'll hit a point where I'm not doing too well mental health wise, or I'm just feeling burnt out, or literally I've just gotten sick and had the flu for a week or whatever. But my online self isn't allowed to fall behind. You know, I still need to keep being I still need to keep being Arachnie and like making that money. Whereas that's when the disconnect happens. It's when I'm not doing so well and I do have to put it on then. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense, because would that also then entail like creating this persona, starting to do those shoots? Is this when you start noticing as well, hey, this is a lot of fun, I've got this name, I'm having a great time, my self-confidence is going up, but at the same time, you're now developing that trait of, man, I'm really starting to notice when I'm about to burn out?
I'm not even sure when I grew the awareness of the fact that I was burning out. Like retrospectively, I can see it. I could see that I was trying to put effort into SG, and that I was also trying to like have a completely different job at the same time and trying to have a relationship. And I can see that I was struggling and then burning out and having really bad mental health periods and then going back to it. But I don't think I really had a handle on it at that point. I don't think I was quite aware of it. That was definitely quite a recent thing, honestly. It's taken a good while.
Yeah, so because it's one of those jobs, and I'm only speaking from an outsider's perspective here, so hopefully, being someone of your experience, you can fill in the gaps. But is it one of those situations there where there is almost no off-peak? Like you kind of have to be on 24/7, vibing, filming, connecting, advertising. Yeah, so it is one of those outlets.
Definitely, it's the hardest part of, I think, like anyone who works from home has a certain element of it where it's like there's no real end to your job. It's like anyone who's ever worked from home will like have that thing where like you can, even if you set hours, even if you say, okay, I'm going to work from 8 till 4, at 4 p.m. you just kind of go, or I could work some more and I could be more productive. And you kind of always feel like you're pushing yourself. So a lot of it is that if I, wake up at 4 a.m. and because I heard a loud noise outside or whatever, instead of going back to sleep, I kind of go, oh, maybe I should check my OnlyFans and answer a few messages. So it's that kind of like around the clock. And then on top of it, there is that kind of, I feel like at this point, especially because I do, like my following's not huge, but there's people there. There's a lot of people there. Who will notice if I stop posting, who will notice if I'm acting strangely to them. So there's definitely pressure to like keep up the best version of myself online, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
As well as to just keep working and churning stuff out.
Yeah. Do you find that you have to sort of create a backlog? Like you have to film sort of a lot of stuff on the day to cover up from those burning out processes, or is it just a day by day kind of thing?
Yeah, it's something that I've started fairly recently, probably only in the last like 6 to 12 months, planning my content ahead a lot further.
Right. And
kind of having in my head, okay, well, I know I'm going to film this on Tuesday and I can post this part of it on Thursday and post this part on Saturday, and kind of figure out how to stretch it. And I do have plans set in place. Like if I feel myself getting sick, I probably shouldn't be pushing myself when I get sick, but if I do feel sick, or start feeling sick, I'll often film a lot that day, take a lot of content that day, so I know I have a lot. But I also have ways of getting around it. Like I pull from my archives and I do different things that are fun. I do raffles and bits and pieces, especially on my OnlyFans, to try to like compensate for the fact that I am not putting out a huge amount of fresh content.
All right, you guys are going to hit the pause button right there. Don't worry. There's plenty more to come with ArachnieSuicide in the coming weeks. We get through a lot more stories. We find out her journey up until where she is right now. But if you're enjoying the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Google, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and Podbean. You can also subscribe to the page on Facebook and Instagram at LMBC Podcast, and on Twitter at LMBC_podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.